Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Sure, I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do you got? You seem like you have something over there.
Yeah, I was going to tell you this morning, but then I wanted to leave it for the podcast because you then it would be like you already knew, right? So we went to Charlie's game yesterday. They played in Ayr, AYR. It's in
Ontario.
between Kitchener and Guelph. Guelph is the home team, and there was some ceremony there for the boy that passed away last week.
Mm.
But before we talk about that, so we were sitting behind. I don't pick my seats. You know, some dads go sit beside the where they're shooting,
Yeah.
so you can see your son score and all that. That's not what I did, but it just happened to be behind Kitchener's net, kind of. So we were sitting there, and four guys were sitting behind us. So I looked up, and they looked young and stuff. Then I noticed they were Ranger players. So I just turned around and said, "Oh, boys, you're on guys are on the Rangers." They said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, cool." And but before that, there was one that was staring at me, like kind of. A couple of them actually looking, and I'm whatever. So once I said that you guys are Ranger players, the one guy goes, "You have a podcast, right?"
No way.
So I said, "I do." I said, "Oh, you watch it?" Yeah, they said. So they all were like, "Yeah, we see on your podcast all the time." And then they were asking about you, like, what's his name and all that stuff. And they didn't obviously know it was Eric.
Yeah.
But so I told them a little bit about it, and then what we do and how we do it and all that kind of stuff. And so it was just so you know, I'm gonna look like a super freak here, but. Just I know everybody in the OHL, right? So it was Francesco Pinelli. So he was drafted to the LA Kings. So I'm giving him a little.
Was he the captain last year?
Yeah, he was the captain last year. Good player. So really nice kid. And then it was Mitchell Martin. And so I said, "Oh, you're Sudbury boy, right?" So we had that connection there. We talked a little bit about our hometown, and then Antonio Puglisi.
Is he Italian?
Yeah, super nice kid. And then Matthew Adamovsky. So, anyways, we talked and a little bit about the podcast and then which one is your kid and all that stuff. So we got through that and talked a little about hockey and but anyways, my point to that is I'm just saying hi to them because now I know that they watch and they are great guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great guys. Had nice conversations. Totally polite. My wife talked to them a little bit. My brother came and shot the shit with them a little bit, and they're just like super nice guys. Like super nice guys.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. And it was nice that they. Sometimes you get the kids that are like kind of cocky about things, but they're really super nice guys. So,
that's great.
And it was nice to see that they recognized me from the podcast.
Yeah, that's
happens a little bit more often now.
I know it's weird, eh?
Yeah.
But I was thinking it's funny how like the Guelph Storm could play the Kitchener Rangers, and you think, God, I hate these guys. They're the biggest bunch of goofs.
Yeah.
This guy's an asshole. This kid's an idiot. I want to whack this kid in the face, and then. Guys get traded, you switch teams, whatever, and you become best buds with guys that are on all the different teams because all the guys are the same. You get the same spectrum of personalities in every dressing room, and it's funny how when you're a kid, you don't really think of it so much like that. It's like this guy's the enemy, whatever, but everybody's the same. They're all just guys going through the same thing you're going through. That's one of the cool things about playing hockey or playing at any team sport, really. You play against other teams, and over time, you just by the nature of where you guys are, you start to meet some of the other kids from other teams and stuff, and it's a cool thing, man.
Yeah, and they know everything about the league. Like that's the world's small now, eh?
Yeah.
They know everything about the league, who's who in the zoo, and all that kind of stuff. But really nice. So I was talking about them because I actually know they play Guelph and Kitchener played about 372 times last year, so I know exactly who the guys are.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the program and heard their names so many times. So like Pinelli's a very good player, drafted second round, I think, to the Kings.
Oh yeah.
So and he was a captain, very nice, smooth player. And then Martin is a nice, big 6'4" boy from Sudbury, and another good player. He's going to Detroit's camp. Been there a couple times this year, so that was cool. And then Puglisi's a good, hardworking forward. Got some good grit to him. And then the Adamovsky kid I like a lot. He's actually a pretty big D. I think he's an 05. Yeah, he's an 05 and good. I actually think he's going to be a really good player.
Cool.
Like really good.
How did you
really
like?
Good. He's got some toughness to him too.
How did you like watching the game in Ayr, Ontario? A little different.
I loved it, but
it looked like a decent rink. They had the bowl seats.
Yeah. So over the weekend, Guelph played Mississauga twice, and then they played Kitchener on Monday. So in Mississauga, they did it last year too. They played their first game at where they play, but it was on the
crap side,
community side, and it was just like horrible place to watch a game. So it wasn't even you get through it
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
watch it. It's a hockey game, but it just the feel is so much different. We went to Guelph the next night. It was felt normal, and then but this community arena was great in air. Um, the rink in Essex.
Yep.
It's is very
Yeah,
similar to
I
that. So it
saw.
had the bowl
Yeah.
seating, and it felt like actually a small OHL rink. It was
Yep.
absolutely awesome place to watch a game. Um, and they packed it, which was great. Well, they packed it so just to go to there. So Ayr, AYR, is kind of like in the middle of Kitchener and Guelph, or close to both. And it's amazing how small the world is, hockey world. So unfortunately, that boy Eli, I'll probably say his name wrong.
Paul Freeman.
Palferman. Yeah,
Paul
Eli
Freeman.
Palferman. He was a player, a 20-year-old that played for the Ayr Centennials, and he passed away last week or the week before, which is awful as a 20-year-old kid. Like, I mean,
Devastating, man.
nothing else to say. It's awful. I guess he passed away in between periods or something like that, and that would be devastating. So they did a ceremony yesterday before the game, and it was just weird that it was there at that game at that arena, right? So they did a ceremony, and the parents came out and they got some flowers. They gave them each a team jersey with his name on it and stuff, and his number, and they did what they could to make it a heartfelt thing for them, let them know they appreciate it. But the small part of it was there was 3-4 guys on Guelph that played with them or were good friends with them, grew up with them. So I think it was Cooper Walker and Ben McFarland, who's from there. Yep. And they grew up playing with him, I believe. And I think Scotty, the coach, coached him.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a pretty close connection. And then Zach Sandu on Guelph played with him last year, I believe.
Yeah.
And then on Kitchener, there was, I think it was Serpa, one of their older guys that might be an overager as well, played with them. So that's how small the hockey community is.
Especially there too. Like you got like Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, Cambridge, and that all those AAA centers. Those they take a lot of those OHL teams take guys that are in that.
Oh, there's
in that
so many good
too,
players
right?
from there.
So it's, and then even from Toronto or even to London, it's an hour each way.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, hour and a bit each way. Yeah. So it's like everyone. That's a real central area where a lot of people would have known that boy. So
yeah. So they did a nice ceremony. You can't help but feel like, wow, that's a big loss. Brutal. Whether it's hockey or not, right? But being in the hockey world, it just shows you how small it is, right? Everybody knows each other.
Yeah,
you can't hide in hockey, but then the nice thing about hockey is how the communities do come together, and they support each other and stuff, like in situations like that, which is nice. I guess the nicest you can say.
Yeah, nice make the best of a bad situation, kind of thing. Yeah,
but it was neat. Like it's amazing how small the world is. Like this hockey world, amazing. Everybody knows somebody, right?
Well, remember the team the bus that got hit out west there? It's not coming to me. The Broncos. Yeah. What was it?
What was it name?
Was it Saskatchewan?
Yeah.
What was it?
Not Swift Current. Well, Swift Current was when I played. There was a bus that went off the rails.
I gotta look the name up. I'm embarrassed.
Humboldt.
Yeah, Humboldt.
Humboldt. That was a few years ago.
Yep, you're right. Humboldt.
Yeah, Humboldt, Saskatchewan.
And then like the freaking world came out. The whole hockey world, not just in Canada, Ontario, whatever. Just like everybody. It's crazy because you just never know, man. You never know things that can happen, and this is why we talk about. There's a lot of things that go on that are bigger than hockey, and it's just you can get real caught up in what you're doing in your day-to-day grind, especially as the players too. It's a hard thing to understand when you're a kid. But I say
you don't expect stuff like that when you're 20.
And that's obviously that's an extreme example. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that tragic of a situation or something to go wrong or whatever. Just even a guy like getting injured real bad where he has to miss a year or anything like that. But obviously you get to the extreme end when there's like a real big tragedy like that. And on the negative end and the positive end, like I tell our guys, I try to remind them all the time, like just be able to take a minute and like smell the roses while you're going through it, man, because things happen fast. It could be something real negative, or it could be something that just your 4 years goes by and it's done, and it's just really important that you're able to take a step back and you can think about things outside of just, playing hockey and whatever, like, you know, paying attention to the people you meet. And I'm sure for Eli and all his close friends, it's like, I hope that all of them, if he was, you know, what everyone says about him, what a great guy he was and all that, I hope his friends around appreciated that about him before, you know, you have something like that happen, because it can just be gone, man. Just like that, it's gone. And if not that, it's your hockey career's over and you never see the guys again that you played with, you know. And it's not that different. All of a sudden you're out of it, you know. So it's important that guys, you take a minute, take a step back, and you understand that it's more than just hockey, you know. Your life things are bigger than just hockey things, you know.
Yeah, at the end of the day. At the end of the day. Although when you're young, hockey is the most important thing in your life, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. It's a hard thing to teach, man. It's a hard thing to teach those guys.
I know.
So, you're back to the travel schedule of going around watching hockey games.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I know you love it. I love letting you talk about it too, because you get you can feel the passion. It's awesome.
It's awesome, you know, like just like seeing those guys from the other team the other day, talking to them, and there's great guys with big dreams, and but so speaking of that, so you got guys on both sides. You got a couple guys in the stands right now, right? So it's preseason. I'll talk about the preseason first. So it's been great to watch. It's neat to see the veterans, the guys that have been in the league for a while, how they just come around and, you know, they just play the game, and you see the young guys just trying to navigate through, you know, even the smallest things, right? Just feeling their way through and being comfortable, and seeing, like, on both sides on every team right now, that the younger guys, you can see, like, when you can see as they're playing, like, a puck gets stolen from them or whatever, or they go do something and a guy's in front of their face, like how much faster that level of hockey is for people. And everyone adjusts, but you can see that the young guys just takes a little bit to get that step in there, right? Kids are big. Yeah, right. Absolutely. But it's been great, man. It's been great. So it's been Charlie's team had 3 games on the weekend. I went to all 3. So this week we're gonna go to one against Oshawa and Guelph, and then I'm gonna take a breather. I'm not gonna travel for preseason too much. But well,
I know we talked a little bit about the camps in the last episode, but now that it's over and you've been able to watch some games, not even just with the Guelph team, but like seeing some of the other teams and some of the kids, now you know a lot of the names and guys going through it, whatever.
Yeah.
So about anything you notice or anything sticks out to you about, you know, guys trying to figure it out, trying to find their way through the lineup, how the teams are looking, or anything you notice or that stuck out for you?
Well, it's funny because everybody I talk to says, I heard Guelph is going to be really, really good this year. So everyone talks like they're going to win the Memorial Cup for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're gonna be a decent team for sure, and how good they're gonna be is who knows, right? You got to play, you never know. And then you never know who's gonna be good and who makes a move to get better, or makes a move that hurts their team, or an injury. You're injury away from losing a guy, or a guy from the NHL comes back and makes your team better, or a guy leaves and never comes back and makes your team worse. So as far as a team goes, you never know what you're gonna have until you start playing. And you gotta play the games before on paper it's fine, but you gotta play the games to figure it out. So to say who's going to be good, I could take a guess on a couple teams, but I don't know. We'll see. They'll be good. And but what I enjoy watching at this point, because it takes you right back, right? So like, kid gets drafted, or he's played in the league a year or two, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then let's say you get drafted and you come to a team, and you can kind of hope and project and have an idea what you think the league is all about. And then when you get there, it's like it's a reality check, right? Because it's hard to really put in perspective, even though you may have been a high pick, how good the league is, and what a guy 4 or 5 years older than you can do on the ice that you just aren't able to do necessarily. So that initial shock of like, oh, this is real now. And I know for a fact that when people go there, like even a first or second round pick goes there, and they think when they get drafted, you know, the team will talk to you like you're going to be the greatest thing that we've ever seen, and this is what we love about you. You're going to fit in so well. Typically, what that means is that you are going to fit in, but there's a process to it, and it's probably not this year, and it might not be next year. So that reality kind of hits home once you get to the camp, or you start seeing the preseason like we do now, and then you start seeing, like, I can tell there's a lot of people going, okay, where do I actually fit in now?
That's exactly
right. Where do I fit in? Because I thought on paper, like, I could probably be a fourth liner or a third liner. And even second year guys, right? Just because you're a second year guy or a third year guy doesn't automatically move you up the lineup.
Right. Yeah,
So
there's no seniority really. Like there's
right.
in some ways there is, but a lot of times it's you perform or you're out, man. It doesn't matter what year you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. If you perform, you get it. There's a little bit of hierarchy to start, obviously. Like first year players typically will have a tougher time getting opportunities.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it ends up being if you're a second year or a third year guy, you're either performing or you're out. You don't just get to be on the power play now because you're older.
That's right.
You know, and that was one of the big differences I remember noticing coming back to camps, doing junior camps, doing the OHL camps, or even going to the like schools, skates with schools and stuff like that, or at the university, same thing. It's like you think that it's we always say it's a business now, you know, and watching seeing the kids try to navigate that, trying to get that figured out in their head, it can be a make or break thing for a lot of kids. And I know we both have tons of examples of guys that either it breaks them down or they get through it, or they just don't know how to handle it and they're just kind of floating through, you know, and they could use some guidance, you know?
Yeah. I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. We're just speaking of the preseason again. The other thing is preseason is the kids, especially the newer kids, they don't realize like the preseason, like there's not even systems yet.
Right.
And if there is,
that's actually important, man.
Well, it's hugely important because you'll see, you know, you see someone maybe in training camp or preseason games where there's not a lot of systems and you still don't have all the best players on the ice.
Yep.
And you'll see someone like that. Maybe they skate the puck a lot and they look like they might know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And or vice versa, you might find someone that plays a good structured game and knows a role. That when they play in a game like that there's not the structure, so they don't look as good, and you look like, well, maybe he's not that good. Yeah. So that's the tough part about watching a preseason game is a lot of the times it's just a very good version of pond hockey, but not pond hockey.
Yep.
So you'll see some guys stand out in ways, and then you'll say, well, he won't be allowed to do that kind of stuff. Like he's not Bobby Orr on D, let's say, not Bobby Orr, and you know that gets sorted out. So the game itself will get more structured, and it'll look a lot more like hockey, and you'll see roles, right? People with roles. So that's one thing in the preseason. You'll see a lot sloppier hockey.
Yeah,
but it's guys just trying to make a point, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to distract you before you go on, but I want to pause on that for parents too, because this was something that, because I came from no hockey background, zero, not even sports background, let alone hockey background, and my parents are very smart. It's not that they didn't get it if I explained it to them, but they didn't understand that there are processes that have to be followed. It's not just go play for fun and just go do what you want, like you're playing road hockey in front of the house. And I remember my dad used to say stuff like that to me a lot, like, just go get it. Like, just go get the puck and just go take it. Like, if you have the puck, they can't be mad. Like, he would make comments like that as I was starting to get into junior, like where there's systems and stuff. And I would try to explain, like, I can't just do that. I can't just leave what I'm supposed to do, you know? So I'm supposed to stand here and do nothing. That's actually what my job is in this situation or whatever, right? So it's just, I want to point that out to parents too that maybe aren't as experienced with hockey. Like even when I go watch some of the junior games, I'll sit with my girlfriend or my mom if she comes to watch, and I'll point out like, that was a face-off play. This guy went there on purpose. That puck went there on purpose. Or this, look at how they're doing the breakout. Like these guys are running routes. There's plays that are happening all over the ice that when you just surface watch, you don't even know what's going on, you know? So as parents or whoever that's talking to players, if you're trying to, you know, be in a position to be a resource or give them advice or whatever, you have to understand the context of what you're saying to them, you know, because that was something that I didn't really have. Like there wasn't, outside of my coach when I was playing junior, I didn't have someone that was explaining things in the context of hockey, the actual hockey, because hockey it's only the fun version of playing like you would on the pond until you're like 14. Then after that, it's like your draft year and then into your years of junior and all that, there's layers on layers on layers of things that you need to be doing, plays you have to memorize. Like at the university, the start of every year, we would get like a 40-page pamphlet of our systems.
Something else to study.
Yeah, we had to study, like go through and know all the plays. And sometimes the coach isn't even there. Like we just have to show up to practice and know these. And if we run the routes and we do it wrong, you're scratched. See ya. You don't know the systems. It's like, oh yeah, but I'm playing so well. Yeah, but you don't know the systems. So just as I wanted to stick on that for people that don't really know the background of, the business of hockey, the systems of hockey, and when there's so many layers of things going on, you'll watch the game and you don't even know what's happening. You won't even know that it's happening.
Well, another thing that happens in the preseason as well is everybody gets some ice,
Right.
right? So you might juggle the lines a little bit, and you might even see a power play as a first-year guy or a penalty kill as a first-year guy, or you're getting a regular shift third period, deep in the third period, you're still getting on the ice a little bit and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, that's not exactly how it works either.
Yeah, and you can kind of get your hopes up.
Well,
right?
that's 100%. You think, and you think of it as a kid, right? You played. Say you played on a third line with a guy that got drafted to the NHL, and you're 16 years old,
and you scored
17
a goal.
years old, you scored a goal, got an assist, made a play, and you're looking pretty good. You feel like you're looking pretty good, and then the season comes, and it's not like it happens to everybody, but most guys.
Yeah.
Then the season comes, and you're the fourth line or a scratch, and you're sitting on the ice going, "Why am I not playing at all? I did well in the preseason," and that's another thing, right? They're there to watch guys and see what they can do and see if they can keep up in different situations. So it's not a structured game yet. So you're not getting in total shit if you're not, the whatever F1, F2, whatever you're supposed to be on a forecheck or neutral zone or whatever. You're just playing, and little adjustments might be made, but it's not a system and it's not your lines, and there's no roles yet. Right. So they're just sorting things out. So that's another thing, right?
Yeah.
So the preseason is that. So.
Yeah. So maybe going back to the players thing. What did I say before that? You said
sorting it out.
About? Yeah, kind of sorting out where you're going to be, where you match up with guys, where in the lineup you think. Well, man, you know what? Because it's such an important topic, and we kind of talk around it a lot in different episodes, and there's some overlap in what we're talking about, but it's such a hard thing to figure out. And I've said this before, and I don't think it's because it's that hard to understand. I genuinely think it's because nobody talks about it. It's like I forget what the example that I used the other day when we were talking. I think I was using like a lawyer. It's like if you
said lawyer or owning a business.
Yeah, it's like if you have a case that you need, like, do you want the guy that just started yesterday, or do you want the guy that's done 57 of the same case over and over to take care of you? When you go into a job, you would never expect to be given all the goods up front. Like, that there's a process and you have to pay your dues and all that kind of stuff before you get all the good stuff, unless you're just for some reason one of the 1%ers, which you could do in any career path. The 1%ers are obviously exceptions, but for some reason in hockey, it's like you see so many kids that they just thought they were ahead of where they should be, and there wasn't somebody to reel them in, and they just lose it, and they go off the deep end. Or kids that are just almost good enough, but they couldn't adapt in a certain way because nobody was telling them about it, and then they're gone, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's so looking at that, what I see is a lot of people trying to find their place, and I'm not just talking the first year guys or second year guys. I'm talking fourth year guys, older guys, because you would think that because you were drafted or because you were a fourth year guy and you've been in a league that you should be number one, number two, or something like that. But it's not necessarily the way she works, right? So looking at it is what you have to understand is well, let me say it this way. There's a lot of guys that are skating there that are uncertain of where they're going to be, right? And uncertainty plays with your head. So that's tough. So you have to do, like, again, what I've always said is you have to do something that makes you stand out. It doesn't mean you're going to be on the first line. You have to do something to separate yourself from somebody. And what is that? It depends on what type of player you are. But if you're going in and you are, if you're looking at just getting on the team, like there's kids that are doing that. They're just looking at, am I actually going to even make the team right now? It's a real tough thing to do, but you have to find something that's going to separate yourself from other people. And what I see a lot of times is a lot of guys don't know that. They don't know how to do that.
Right.
And, maybe it's a conversation with the coach, but it's like you have to take some onus on yourself to do that. And, there's ways to do it. Could be physical, could be forechecking, backchecking, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I just see that. There's a lot of guys trying to sort it out. But even like third-year guys, whatever, right? And they're looking at, am I going to be stuck on the third or fourth line again?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you might be. But the thing is, I was saying this to Charlie the other day, like the coach wants the first, second, third, or 8th, 9th, 10th rounder to come in and actually make you worried. because there's a couple reasons for that, right? Number one is if he can get if you have someone like that's a scratch that's hungry to play, where you have a fourth line guy that's like kind of close and pushing, and if you're having an off night as a guy above him, the coach wants that because now that gives you that internal competition within the team. So if you're not going, someone else can go. So they want those guys to be pushing, and it's necessary because it's the day that you feel really comfortable is the day someone's taking your spot. Never ever lose sight of the fact that someone on your team, you are teammates, but they want, if you're playing a higher, getting more ice or getting more love or whatever it is, they are playing well and they want to play well so they can get your spot. Right. They want to take it from you, and it's your job to stand out in a way that you do something different than everybody else, that they can't take that job away, and you do your something really, really, really well.
Yep.
Right.
Well, it's the same. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
it's
good.
the same. It's the same as it's any job, man. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter where you're working. It's like you guys are all working for whatever the company is. It's like, yeah, you're on the same team, but you want the promotion before your buddy next to you, you know? And it's just a natural, you find that dynamic in any system that you're analyzing. It's like people are trying to move up and down. There's going to be competition internally. And one of the guys I was talking the other day to one of the guys, and he was saying there's a D that was supposed to be there that isn't there right now. So one of the young guys that's like a first year player, he's like, oh man, like that's too bad he's not here, but like I'm kind of happy because I might get to play now, right?
It's more for me.
It's more for me, you know.
More
and
opportunity.
There's going to be a little element of that. There's always that little element of internal competition that's going to be within the team, and
absolutely
understanding that going in as a player, it might help you deal with some of that uncertainty that you're talking about. You know, like you know that they are trying to put pressure on you. And if you've done everything you can do to prepare, if you've done everything that you can do to be ready for camp or preseason or whatever, then all you can do is go out there and play. And it's not necessarily any different than any other day or any other game like you always talk about. It's the same thing. But guys start to worry. They start to get in their own head, and they don't have an outlet, or they have an expectation like, I deserve this thing. Like this game or this team or this whatever, they owe me this next step. And that's not necessarily how it works. You don't just get to have it. You know, you don't just get to have the thing that you want. At all. You know, and the guys find that out at every single level as soon as you get out of minor hockey. Every single level. Even in minor hockey, it's starting now too. Like we had some guys playing last year that they played a 9 and 10 forward spot on a 3-line team.
Really, yeah.
And they're like playing half the game.
Yeah.
Right? As like a fourth, that would be third line in the minor hockey. But
extra forward. Someone's missing a shift.
And you're paying. Where you would think like I'm paying and I should just get, and it's like, no, because for us to have players that get to move on, we have to be a team that wins. And if you're not a team that wins, then it's not just about development. Development is obviously important, and that's what you want. But winning and development are tied together quite a bit. They're not separate things. You know, if you win, you'll probably develop a little bit better. You know, if you're on a team that's in a good environment and you win. You know,
one of the things I see with people that feel like they're on the edge or not certain of where their position is on the team or where it could be, is I find most of them play not to make mistakes.
Right.
Yeah. So it's overthinking, and you can see the tension in their body language and in their demeanor and in the way they play. Right. It's playing not to make a mistake. And really what the coaches want to see is what you can actually do well, because you can always fix making a mistake. Right. Like, so that's one of the things I would suggest to people when you're trying to do something is find what are you good at? Like what are you good at? Do you have speed that you're not using? Like it doesn't mean that you have to skate through people and score, but it could mean that you could be a real absolute animal on a forecheck. Even if you're out of position in preseason, right? Even if it was inappropriate, but just to show that, look at the burst of speed and look what I am willing to do. Or that burst of speed, like if you don't have a lot of puck time, because a lot of times you don't. There's shifts. I talk about this all the time. There's shifts where maybe it's not your fault and maybe it is, but there's times where the puck just isn't going your way for 2 periods. So what can you do to get yourself noticed, right? Yeah. So maybe it is just jumping in there and defending real hard, or you know, like an incredibly hard forecheck, just so they can say, oh yeah, this guy's working hard, he's trying to make something happen. Mm-hmm. It could be a really big hit. an inappropriate hit. It could be getting in a scrum and just letting, maybe that gets you in the game, get a little bit of push and shove, and maybe that could draw some attention to you.
Yep.
But something, right? Something to get you to stand out that you do well. So what are your assets? And make sure you expose it in some way.
Yeah, and that's an important question to ask. I like how you said that though. The guys play to not make mistakes, and that's a little bit cliched. Like people say that, like you have like play to, or the play not to lose instead of playing to win. Like there's another saying, but it's the idea of like you're trying to blend in, and blending in is not good enough because anybody can blend in. If you're just vanilla, it's like you're no different than the next guy that didn't make the team that was just one day too late or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Somebody could just slip right into your spot and nobody would notice. So it's important that if I ask you a question, because I find this when I watch some of our junior guys, not even just our guys, just junior games in general. If I analyze like how some kids play, I wouldn't be able to explain what they do. Like, there's no role that I can see them clearly in. Even if they're playing on a junior team or something where they're the best player, they wouldn't be the best player on the next team that they played on. So how can I describe this player? If you ask me, what is guy X, like how does he play? What is he good at? I find a lot of players I watch, I don't know. And I've watched them. It's like I've watched them several times, and it's like I don't really get how they don't really finish hits, but they can shoot okay, they can skate okay, they can make a play here and there. They're not overly tenacious or anything.
Yeah.
It's just like they're very vanilla, as we say.
And that only gets you so far.
Only gets you so far.
It might give you a role on a team for a period of time, but that you're limited to that. So
yeah. So
you got to bring something. But even just getting to the net, like something
yes.
that you go, you stand out.
Yeah. So if I ask you, if you're the player and I say, hey, like, if you had to explain to me how you play hockey, I've never seen you play before, you should have an answer. It shouldn't just be, oh, like, well, I scored 30 goals last year. It's like, that doesn't tell me any information. Like, I don't know what that means. Well, I make plays. It's like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means, right? I need like specifically to the level of this in-game skill, like what it is that you do. Because you'll go to camps and tryouts and whatever with the expectation that just like each year you'll be more of a scorer. That's like the default mindset. It's like each year that I get older, I'll be more of a scorer on my junior team. I have 4 years. By year 3 and 4, I should be a top 6 player. And it's like, okay, top 6 doesn't mean scorer. It's just non-specific, right? So if you have to have an identity, man. It's so important. It's so lacking in so many of the kids that we talk to.
Yeah, like you want to stand out. That's the bottom line. And if you don't, it's like, why are we keeping you?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Vanilla is vanilla.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. If you get yourself caught where you don't really know, right? So if you're in that position where I can't really tell where I stack up, I can't really tell where I fit in on this team. I want to talk about it maybe a little bit for the player, but then even for parents maybe trying to help their kids get through that type of situation, because I know you've dealt with a few situations just over the years, a lot of situations where parents come asking you to talk to their kid because they're struggling with whatever. So maybe a little bit of advice for that, or from the coaching perspective, like ways that you can, this is one I have a hard time with this because I haven't coached, but it's like, that your players go through this stuff, right? It just happens on every team at any level. It doesn't even matter what the level is. So maybe some ways to if you're a coach, having your players understand a little bit of the dynamic or what to expect or where they stand or anything like that. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
There's a lot there.
No, it's okay. We'll get through it.
Yeah.
Well, there's different things, right? Some coaches will take the time and try to help you. And most coaches, especially at the junior level, understand that there could be obstacles in the way that are preventing you from being your absolute best. For example, you are new to the team, new to the league, everything's new, and you just don't know where you fit in. It's like it's all new senses. So let you settle into that, and we'll see how it goes, right? So that's number one. And then once you're in there a little bit, the coaches that communicate and care, they might just pull you in and say, okay, Eric, You've been here for 3 days, and you know what we like about you, this, and this. And it looks like you're playing like I see some good in it in what you're doing, but we have to step it up. And I want to see 1, 2, 3 things that'll help you. I want to see those assets that you have. I want you to relax. Don't worry about making mistakes. I want you to just go out and play, have some fun, and do these things because you need to step up. And that's the message, right? You might have it from a coach that doesn't communicate real well, but it's not necessarily the tone that you have to listen to, it's the message. And if the message is just straight, you need to get to the net, something that simple. Well, that you have to navigate that and figure that out. The message was get to the net. So I would, if I really wanted to make the team, I will get to the net. It might be really ugly too, but you said get to the net. I did it, and there might be blood everywhere, or there might be a mess and a brawl that you have to clean up or something. But I did go to the net. I got your attention now, right? But you have to be able to take those messages and go. So, anyways, a coach, how can you help a guy? We're going on the premise that the coach wants to help, but at the end of the day, like I mean, I think so many times we look at coaches like they're the jerk, or they're the big boss guy that I do what I say. But I'm finding more and more that you have coaches that actually do like there's a better understanding of the human and understanding of the age, and when someone's new to things, that they understand that they have to maybe spell something out for them a little bit, and which is good, right? So if you have a coach like that, you got to listen to the message, and do whatever you can to make sure that you take that message and you do it. And then if the guy doesn't communicate, then maybe I know that it's hard sometimes, especially if you're a quieter guy or if you're really, really nervous. But if you got a guy that doesn't say a whole lot and is very direct, it could be very intimidating to ask the coach, like, Coach, I don't feel like I'm playing at my best right now, and I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, but I haven't been around the puck a whole lot. Is there something that I'm doing? Is there something that you can give me some direction so that I can fix it? And that shows that you want to be there. And the coach will probably give you something. But sometimes the onus does have to be on you. Like, here's the bottom line, right? It's if this is the thing that you really, really want, then it really, as a player, it's really up to you to figure it out. It's not really the coach's job to make sure that you're happy. It's really your job to sort out, sort through the shit and go do it. So if it's an uncomfortable situation or conversation that you just don't want to do, but it's necessary to have, you have to have it. The worst thing that's going to happen is he's going to tell you, well, you're no good. Well, okay, at least I know, right? Or if he says, here's one thing and you do it, then you've actually accomplished something. It's important. But from the coaches, like, I can't speak for other coaches. I can't. I think it's important that you get the message out to kids, but sometimes they don't. And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so two keys on that I'm going to take. First, for the players. So you have to go, if you have to go ask, even if your coach is an ass, sometimes that happens, man. Sometimes you just get a shit situation and the coach sucks and it is what it is. But you have to force yourself. You have to force yourself to do those uncomfortable things because it helps you to grow up. And then you can handle more of that later. Yeah. Like being able to go and speak to someone like an adult, even when you don't want to, like force yourself to, or go talk to the assistant coach. Or
I was just going to say that.
Like, yeah.
Every team has, sorry to cut you off, but every team has, in the OHL pro and stuff, they have head coach with typically 2 or more assistant coaches, video coaches, whatever, assistant GMs.
Yeah.
There's probably someone there that you have a little bit.
Yeah. Find the guy.
You do.
Yeah,
and typically your assistant coaches are a little bit more player friendly.
Right.
So if you're a defenseman and your D coach is, you're spending a little bit of time with them, but you're spending a little bit, that would be your guy, is to go to, Eric, Coach Eric, can I bother you for 1 second? Yeah, what's up? Okay, blah, 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 blah. Is there anything that you see I could do or anything I can fix right now? He might not have an answer, but at least you've taken care of that and you showed that you give a shit.
That's right. So and man, I actually remember having conversations with my dad where my dad was telling me to do this, like go talk to your coach, and me being like, no, I'm not. Yeah, because I would throw the reason book. I would pull it out and I would say, I already know what he's gonna say. He's gonna say this, 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 and this, and F him because he's an asshole, and XYZ treating me like shit, whatever be a baby reason I had. I remember doing it vividly. And then every single time, 2 days later, 3 days later, I would let it marinate, the conversation that we had, and I would go talk to him. And you know what happened? Every single time I felt better. Even if it was nothing really productive. It was just nice to touch base with the coach, even though that barrier to entry was so high. And it was something that helped me be mature as a teenager when I was 17. You're just a kid. So then by the time I was 20, and when I went to the university and I'm dealing with adults, I was an adult. I was an adult, and a lot of my buddies that were on that university team were still little kids because they didn't figure out how to do that part when things are difficult, like how to have the tough conversation.
What happens? You go and have a pity party. You want people to join you, but that's not productive.
And I know. And I'd be in a room with a bunch of 24, 25-year-olds or older when I was playing at the university, just like, you guys are babies. Like, we're grown-ups, man. It's not 16 years old playing our first year of junior. It's like, go talk to the guy. Like, go be a man and talk to the guy. And then you'll figure out what the issue is, you know? And so the earlier you can start to make yourself do some of those things that are uncomfortable, the faster you'll be able to just handle those types of situations, you know? So that's really important for your own sake when you're trying to find your place on the team or whatever. It's really important that you can do that. And having said that, going to the coach side of it, I think the most important thing as a coach that you can do when you're giving a player advice, this is something that I would have really loved to have, was be as specific as possible with what you actually want your player to do. You know, because a lot of times they just throw out like meaningless nothing statements where it's like, you have to just keep working, man. It'll come. Like, keep working. And it's like, that's nice. Help. That's like, it's positive encouragement. So that is for whatever that's worth. But you're not giving them something that they can specifically do. It's like, assuming everyone works hard, which most kids, by the time they get to a certain level, are all trying their best. It's like, this kid is missing something specific. Tell him what it is, at least from what you see, you know, because the next guy that comes in to ask you what he needs to do, his thing should be different. It shouldn't just be just work harder to everyone. It's like, now that doesn't mean anything, you know? So one thing that could really help kids, like the example you said, get to the net. Just go there. When I'm a kid, like, that's very understandable. Get to the net. Okay, I'm going to kick it wide, go to the net. That's all I'm going to do. Because that's a specific job I can now do, you know? And that was something that
even if you, the thing with that is, if you kick it, like for that example, even if you're deep, you kick it wide and you drive to the net, you've actually taken, like, there's never anything wrong with that. And what happens now is that the guy with the puck, not that you want to make him screw up, it's not the point of this, but if he makes a play that isn't the smartest play or turns it over, whatever, that example might be used. Like, you had a guy going to the net. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that was you, that you did something to, you know, you created it. This guy did something good. Like, you get noticed. Right. And if you go to the net and it's, you know, I know it sounds like it's actually very simple. Like, of course you go to the net, but if you really watch a game, and if you like really watch a game at all levels, and you find the guy that goes to the net hard consistently, like, it's not the easiest thing to find. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a scary place to be, man.
Yeah,
hard to get there.
But a guy that actually kicks it wide and drives to the net with a purpose and takes a D with them, actually go to a game and try to find that guy. You might find one or two guys a game that are consistent at it.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, everyone wants to be F3, man.
yeah.
You know,
and just turn the page now, flip the page, and find that guy that back checks as hard as he went to the net.
Yeah.
Or someone that has that desire to defend as much as the desire to put the puck in the net.
Yeah.
That you become very, very, you stand out. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a thing, right? Finish all hits or whatever, but like going to the net, that's something that, I mean, when guys do it consistently, they stand out.
Yeah, and so, like, that's my whole point on that is, like, if you're the coach from the coaching side, give them a specific thing. If it is go to the net, or if it is you better be in the corner every shift, or you're not playing. Even if you say it like that, I'm not going to play you unless you're in the corner every shift. So find your way to get there. That's specific. And now if the player doesn't do that, that's on them now, because you at least have told them. And then from the player side, you have to find the specific thing too. If your coach doesn't give it to you, go talk to the assistant coach. Ask them in video. Ask whoever you can ask. Figure out what the actual job is. It's not just work hard. Or if they say like you have to get your feet moving, it's like that doesn't. I don't know what that means.
No, those are just
like,
a bunch of words.
Like tell me specifically. So if you're the player, find out what that actual thing is. Find out what the thing is, or a couple things that that your coach wants you to do, right? Because even if it's not something that you think is part of your game, that's what your coach wants you to do. So if you can get that answer, now you can have something that you can work on, because it's a real job that you can do. It's an action that you can take. It's not just a general vague statement that doesn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah, like if you haven't made contact, like go to your way. Go to your
Seriously.
way. No, seriously, go
Exaggerate
to
it,
your
yeah.
way and say like, because you do a little bit of a late hit a couple times, everybody will notice,
Mm-hmm.
and then at least the coach could say, "Okay, Eric, slow down a little bit. You're acting a little bit. I know you're horny right now, but like settle down."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you saw what I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not to have negative press, but it's you want some attention.
Yeah.
Because if you go at the end of a shift, you say, "Yeah, I don't know, you got a few shifts. I didn't really notice them tonight." That's not good.
Right. Yeah.
Necessarily.
Well, and then that's how you get to the point where you feel like your coach doesn't even know you're on the bench.
Right.
Right. Which you talked about that before. It's like, do you even know that I'm here? It's like, well, you haven't made yourself known really.
Yeah.
So they still know you're there, but they don't have to pay attention to you. You're not doing anything good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing with all this stuff is that it could play with your head, right? If you're not doing the right things, then you start contemplating and you start wondering, do I actually even belong here? And then you start, as I talk about all the times, is that when you don't have a big enough dream or a big enough goal, then you find every little thing that is going wrong magnifies, right? So all your little distractions and all those things magnify if it's not going exactly the way you want. And the thing that we always have to remember about this game is like it's really, really hard. Like it's really, really hard. My brother was watching the game from ice level yesterday. Basically, we're 3 rows up because it was a smaller rink. And he goes, "Man, is this a lot faster game? Just as every row you go down." He goes, "It's so fast." He goes, "There's no room." He goes, "You have to be so good." I said, "Ray J, this is being a pro hockey player is one of the hardest things these kids will ever do in their life." And the competition between first line to fourth line, it's like it's huge, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
They're all really, really, really good hockey players. So it's if you're not getting your sniff first year, second year, it's very easy to think that the world's falling apart. And it's a lot of the times people even look at it and say like, why do I even go through this process? Because like, listen, all players want things now, like we talked about earlier. Everybody is in a hurry to get things that they want now, and they forget about the process, right? And when you're in your fourth year, let's say junior, and you look back at your first 2 years, you forget about them because you should be in a spot where you're getting your ice and things are good, and you forget about those. But it's getting to that third, fourth year and going through the grind, because you're not going to be the best guy on the ice every night typically.
Yep.
So what happens is it starts playing with your head, and it's well, I'll just give a real simple example, right? If there's something to do on a Saturday night when you should be probably in bed resting for your game, if you're not the guy getting the ice or getting to be the go-to guy, then the Saturday night is like, well, what's the difference if I go out and have a little bit of fun?
Oh yeah, man.
Right? That distraction can turn into something that's attractive, right? Instead of sticking to the grind. It's maybe spending more time in a pity party with the people that are going to bring you down. Maybe it's all that kind of stuff, and it's thinking, well, maybe I should just get traded, and it's a snowball effect of negativity that can create something that doesn't need to be there, and you're just not understanding the process. Yep. So the thing that you need to do as a player is you got to keep that. What's that goal? What's that dream? And understand, like, just the bottom line. There's every day is a tryout. Dalton says it the best. He goes, like, when he got to pro, he said practices mattered. He goes, if I didn't have the best practice, I might not play. Practice? Yeah, practice.
It's a game.
There's guys, when you're 8D deep, like, you don't just get to play. You have to perform. And so that's the thing, is every day is a grind, and you have to act every day like you're fighting for a spot. And it's just so easy. Like, what happens is you go into the camp and everybody's excited. I'm going to have this, that, and the other thing. And everybody makes these big goals and dreams, and because it's not real yet. right? There's no pressure. There's no reality yet. It's like you're thinking big. You're being positive. You're dreaming. It's not negative dreaming. It's just you're dreaming and you're looking at all the things that are going to go your way until 6'4" guy in the same position that's a little bit rougher is wants your spot as well. And you guys are fighting for the same spot. And then it's all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm not as big as him or he's faster, whatever, all these things. And you can almost talk yourself into the reasons why you're not going to be successful and the grind and all the ugly stuff. Whereas the attitude needs to be, okay, this is my dream and I will do whatever it takes. And what does it take? I got to find that one or two things that's going to separate me from that guy. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, man. I want to slightly shift to parents now, because this is an interesting topic, and I've never actually asked you this question, so I hope you have a good answer.
Okay.
So you've had several times. Oh, sorry. You've had several times where I've been here while it's happened, where parents call you or text you and ask you to talk to their kid because their kid is in either a slump or a mental funk or whatever, and they'll say to you, hey, do you mind just like pulling them aside during the camp today, or can you talk to them and just see how they're doing or whatever. And I find that really interesting because it's like they don't know what to say or what to do, and they're the parents, they're the parents. And I'm not saying it's their fault or they just don't know. So what do you,
as far as hockey
goes, like what,
it's hard to give advice for hockey.
So this is my question is, what are you, when you have these, first of all, when you have these conversations, how does it typically go? Number one, what types of things do you say? And then what do you think is like, what is the magic that you're providing that another parent, they should kind of either be able to do or be aware of or know, so that they can deal with the conversation in a little bit of a better way? And I know we've talked about before how you don't necessarily want to hear it from your parents, so sometimes it's just kind of nice to get it from somebody else. But just go on that for a bit. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'll say it for my own son, right? I'm at the point now. I'm at the point now where I feel like if I talk to him about hockey, and I'm being very, very truthful here, I feel like if I say too much about the hockey, that I'm in his way. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I don't know what the coaches are expecting from him. I don't know what they are telling him. I don't know what the systems are. I don't know. Like I can figure it out as it goes. I don't know what's in their head. So to say to my son, I think you need to be harder on the forecheck, that might be the right thing to say, but it also might be the wrong thing. So me giving him the advice would be just, okay, Dad, I don't want to talk to you anymore because you're a pain in my ass. Yeah. Just be my dad, right? So that's number one. So I now defer to the coach. Like, don't talk to me about the specifics of your game. Talk to your coach. And to be truthful, I don't want to be his coach. I just want to be his dad.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, let me interrupt for a second. Yeah. Because that's so important distinction here. Because you said, don't talk to me about the specifics of your game. And it's like, yes, like, but it depends on what the issue is, right? So it's like, you want to talk about like, hey, in this situation, do you think like this, I should have made this play? What if I would have made this play? And you can be like, oh, well, I was watching from up top. It looked like this. Yeah. That's different than saying, hey, I have a problem. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm getting the right thing. So how do I deal with that, Dad? And that's where, as dad, you don't have an answer. You can't have an answer, right? So like you said, you can have your opinions, but the correct advice to give your kid in that situation is say, go talk to the person who actually is in control of what you're going to get to do. See what they want from you, right? Because you telling like this, you're just taking a guess, and it might be an educated guess or a pretty well-informed guess, but you still might be wrong, right? So I just want to make that distinction.
Yeah. Now on the flip side of that, what I can always do to him is I could always remind him of what I think he is as a player, right? And I think very highly of him as a player. And I give him the specifics why. I find him very unique in how he plays hockey. So that's good.
That's like the positive encouragement type.
Yeah, but it's the truth. Right. I said, you're very unique because of this, and this. True? And he goes, yes. I said, so if you're not playing unique, then you're no good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true, Dad.
Yeah.
Right? So what makes you
Yeah.
unique is your uniqueness.
Yeah,
And
that
if you
seems so
choose,
obvious. Easy to
right.
forget. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are those things that make you unique so he can go bang, bang, bang? Now, not all kids are unique,
Yeah.
right? But he goes, oh yeah, this, and this. So yeah, so do that.
Mhm.
That's what they like as far as I can tell.
Right.
And love hockey, man.
Mhm.
So that's what I say to him. It's like when he because he's young and all kids are young and all kids want encouragement and whatever. So that's what I say. Now the next thing is it could be done for everybody and it should be done by everybody, parents, coaches, players. When you're talking to players, like even if you're a captain or you're telling me I just can't get ice right now, like coach is sitting me, like my question to you is shouldn't, or as a friend, as a coach, as a parent, shouldn't be I know it's bullshit. That's not the answer because it doesn't
Mhm.
solve anything. The first question should be, okay, so why do you think that's happening, right? So let's just say, like, I'm going to change gears totally here and say I'm the player that uh, I'm on the cusp of making a team, right? And you come off the ice and you didn't get as much ice in training camp, whatever, and you go see mom and dad, just they didn't play me that much. Like, I don't know, man. The question, it can't be, well, poor you. It should be like, why do you think that's happening right now? And it's not negative. Why do you think? Brain goes into, it's either gonna be negative or positive, but we got to come up with an
Solve a
answer.
problem.
We
Yeah.
got to come up with an answer.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Okay, well, we need to figure out why that might be it.
That's not a good
right?
answer. Yeah.
So what are the
Yeah.
things that you think you did well today? Okay, nothing. Okay, well, that's a problem. Or one thing. Oh, okay, you got one thing. You think you did that well. Okay, was it better than everybody else? Is it good enough? Is it good enough to be better than anyone else? Do you do it better than anybody else, or you just do it kind of the same? Because if we're fringe, we got to do something better than other people, right? Okay, so now we identify the problem. Like, why is that happening? Okay, because I didn't do this or I did this. Okay, well, we need to do that. Like, we have to fix the problem. So the pity parties and the wish it would just go my way does not work. So as parents, you do have a good opportunity for them to, like, even though it might not be lovey-dovey, it's the right thing to do. Is to say, like, why is that happening? How do we fix that?
Yeah.
How can you fix that? What can we do about it? And really, those are the answers, because you don't have a lot of time to feel sorry for yourself, because you're going to have to get on the ice next shift, next day, whatever it is, and fix it.
Yeah.
Or else time runs out.
And let them come up with the answers. You've said that before, but you're asking the question and let them figure out, because you get into, especially because I remember this, things aren't going your way, you're very hostile. Like I remember that, like when if I was having a bum out after a game or something like that, I wanted to fight. It was like, if you tell me something,
oh, you're miserable.
I'm right away going to tell you why what you said is wrong and stupid and you don't know and whatever. Yeah. Particularly if it's mom and dad, because for some reason it's very easy to get frustrated with your parents when you're a teenager. So if something bad was going on and my parents were offering me the solution, I didn't want to hear it. Like, don't tell me what you think I need to fix, right? You don't know, even if they're right. It's like, I just don't want to hear it that way. So it's the way you framed it is important too, right? To ask the question.
Yeah, you have to turn into, like, part psychologist.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Hugs and kisses all the time don't work. Neither do kicks in the ass all the time.
Yeah,
you don't want to say because you suck.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good sometimes, actually, but by asking the questions, it's like, for example, let's say, well, dad, mom, coach, or if you go into the coach and said this, like, I feel like I'm playing better than this guy and this guy. Okay, why? And then you have to come up with reasons, and are you though? Are you? Like, those are the questions. Like, you have to ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
And solve it. Like, and if you feel like, so let's go take a different situation. If you let's say you are outplaying someone that's 2 years older, that's been on the team for 2 years, let's say, and you're on your first year, or 3 years and you're on your first year, whatever. And maybe in your mind you are outplaying them, and maybe you actually are. Maybe you have to do a hell of a lot more for that person to get his spot taken, to take that guy's spot, take his ice. It's like in the UFC or in boxing, right? The champ always gets the seed of doubt if it's a point, if it goes by the points.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to win the world title or win to get to the world title or whatever it is, UFC, boxing, whatever, the one way that you know that you can get the title is with a KO. But if you don't knock a guy out and it's on a point system, then it's subjective.
Right.
Subjective? Yeah. Subjective. You got the 3 judges that could say, well, I saw this, and well, Eric's the champ. You're still the champ because you didn't beat the champ. So if you lay him on his ass and he looks at the lights when after 10 seconds, you win. So it's the same in the game. Like in the game of hockey, it's like you're in that competition, and if you're not markedly better than the guy that you think you're better than, then you didn't earn it yet necessarily, right?
Yep.
So
yeah,
just the thing. It's a hard reality, right?
Well, and I was gonna say the other part too is you've mentioned this before. Just to bring it up again, is you also have to kind of read when they want the problem-solving conversation versus when they want to complain. You know, because that was something I remember too, or even like it's not even just a hockey thing. It's like anything. If I'm talking to my girlfriend and she wants to tell me about why her day was a pain in the ass, I can sit in my chair and just be like, well, this isn't even a problem. Just do this, this, and this, and there's no issue. So sometimes they actually don't want to hear that either. So it's having a little bit of that balance of reading what type of conversation they actually want to be having. And that's why, and you're really good at this too, man, is like letting the player dictate how they want the conversation to go. And then you kind of read off of that and you can plug in, okay, I'll ask this question here, or I'll just let them talk or whatever. You are good at that. And would you say when you're talking to other kids, you kind of just do what you were just kind of laying out? Like you kind of have the same conversation you would have with Charlie with whoever you're talking to, more or less, no?
Yeah, like I know my son a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
So sometimes I just have to be a dad to him.
Yeah.
And I said this on one of the podcasts before, right? I had a conversation with him his first year, and I was getting the sense that he didn't want me to give him advice in any way, and fair enough. So I sent him a text because I didn't even know if he would answer the phone. He wasn't mad at me, but just like he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
So I sent him a text saying, you know what, son, here's the deal. I want to be a dad. Number one, I want to be your dad. It's the most important thing in my life is that I'm your dad. Hockey's the secondary by far. So when you call and you have issues, because year one's tough. If you have an issue or whatever, I'm going to ask you, do you want to talk about it, or are you just venting? And then there was times where he said, no, I want to talk about it, because he does respect what I have to say. And then there's times he goes, oh no, I'm just blowing smoke. I said, okay. So then I don't have to get too invested. I know he can handle it. But there was times where he asked me, no, what do you think? I said, okay, that's cool, and I'll ask you. For a parent, it made it a lot easier for me. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, like, because my wife will ask some questions because it's her son, and she wants everything to be perfect all the time too, just like I do. But she would say this, and this. Well, maybe Charlie this. Maybe I go, listen. At the end of the day, this is his life, and he has to want it more than anybody for it to work out. And you have to understand that. Like, this is his dream, and it's really, really hard. So he will figure it out because he wants to, right? But at the end of the day, I love the fact that it's kept my relationship with my son really, really good, because I don't have to blow smoke up his ass. I could tell him the truth but only when he wants to hear it. Other than that, I could just let him talk, and I go, yep. Right. So when you were asking me about other kids, yeah, it's a little tougher. Well, not tougher, but I don't know them as well, and I have less to lose, if that's yeah. For sure. So, but I care deeply, so that's where I go, and I'll say, well, I'm real with them. Like, what are you doing differently? How's it? Just those questions. Yeah. And so, for example, last year I had one of the players. You were around quite a little bit for that was playing, and he was starting to get scratched, and he called me. And I kind of, it's in his DNA to be a little bit lazy. So I called him out on it. And he's like, yeah, but the coaches are just trying to bury me. I said, okay, let's say they are, but let's be real. And I gave him some facts. And then he goes, yeah, but the coaches are just trying to bury me. That's two. So I said, well, so I gave him some stuff. I said, we'll work on this, this, and this. And he goes, okay, thanks, Andy. So next game, scratched, played. Then he said, I got a couple shifts and, they're just burying me now. I said, well, do you want to solve it or not? He goes, yeah. I said, send me some clips and I'll just give you my feedback, just very, very honest feedback. So he sent me about 5-6 clips. So I showed him what he did well. I said, okay, so you got pucks coming off the wall. You peel them off well. You get them out. That's good stuff. Said, you got a shot on net in that situation. Very good. Very good. I said, but in this clip here. So I went through it. I said, that hit needs to be, you have to hit. You have to finish that hit. This one, you had to move your feet. This one, you had to get to open space. So I gave him 4 or 5 things. And I said, if you don't do these things, this is why this player is getting that ice, because he does. So if you don't do those things and do them right now, then you will not get any ice. And I'm just being honest with you. He goes, well, they're just trying to bury me. Okay. So I can't help you is the answer.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the answer. And it was the answer. That was the answer because that's what he wanted to do. Now, the other thing is that if you think that you're going to turn this around because you had one good shift or one good game, that's not, no. This is, you're in the mud. You've kind of created a identity for yourself, and it's going to take, it might take you, this was, let's say, it might take you 2 months, might take you right to the end of the year to gain their trust back that you can do this on a consistent basis, but it's going to take time. But you can get out of it if you do these couple things. It's like, they're just trying to bury me. I said, well, they're just trying to bury you. That's not really trying to solve a problem.
Right. And that actually goes to a point that I wanted to kind of start to wrap up on. So talking about the guy you were just talking about reminded me, I wrote down actually a question I want to pose to the players. If you are in that situation where you're in the grind, where you feel like you're in the mud, you can say, yeah, I think the coaches are trying to bury me or whatever. But at the end of the day, the question is, what do you actually want? And I don't think, especially at that age, like kids don't know what they want, and like, it's real easy to say, like, I want to be a hockey player. But we've said this before too. It's like, do you really want to be a hockey player, or would it be nice to be a hockey player? And that's the question. It's like, because when you get into these moments where you feel like, oh, I'm getting screwed, or I don't know where I stand, or I don't know if I really fit in, or I don't know if I have it in me to do this, or whatever. Those are all important questions that if you answer the question of what do you actually want, do you really want to do this, or would it just be nice to do this? Knowing the answer to that question, those questions, is really, really important. And I know a lot of kids wouldn't do this, but it's a really good exercise, is to actually sit just with your own brain for 20 minutes and actually write down what you want, or some version of that, right? Even if you don't write it, think about, like, do you actually want, what does that actually mean for you to do that? So if you project 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, if you could have everything exactly as you want it, how would that look? Because I remember, I'm going to tell a little story about myself. This is in no way is meant to be like a humble brag at all, but I'm trying to make a point that's not hockey related, because it's the same thing. So when I finished playing and I was all in on school, I was legitimately trying to figure out, okay, do I actually want to be an engineer now? I've been a hockey player for the last 23 years. Do I actually want to switch and go be a nerd now for the rest of my life? Is that what I want? And I was thinking yes, because I loved the whole environment, like the problem solving, the schoolwork, the everything to do with being someone who other people think is smart. I liked that. I thought that was great. But did I really want to be that, was my question. So I remember my second year, I got, from my own doing, got an interview at Tesla, the Tesla plant in Fremont, California. So I had to go do an interview with these guys. Now,
no big deal, by the way.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't want to be like, I'm not trying to humble brag, but it's actually an important story, because I go into this interview. These guys are engineers, man. Like these guys are actual, all they care about is building things and fixing stuff and developing products that make everything better for everybody. So these guys make the most well-known, they started the electric vehicle movement at Tesla, more or less. That's a big thing. So I go and I have to stack up with these guys that are giving me my interview. And I went into this interview completely unprepared. had no idea what that actual world would be like. And I had to solve problems on the spot, and it was fine. The interview went fine. But I came out of it thinking like, okay, do I actually want to do that thing? Now that I just talked to two of the senior engineers at Tesla, do I actually want to do that? Is that actually what I want to do? And I didn't. I thought I did, but upon further investigation, where I actually went and tried some of these jobs and I tried to take some of the action that it would take to be someone who is in a position to work at a place like that, I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do it.
When you're probably talking lifestyle too, right?
That's like everything.
Wearing khakis and wingtip shoes to work every day.
Sit at my desk on my computer
probably
all day.
Not, right?
The lifestyle was, that's what it was. The difference, it wasn't the work, it was the lifestyle.
Yep.
But it's the same question though, for when we pull it back to hockey player now. It's not just you get to go out with your stick and shoot the puck around. And that's kind of what it was for me. I liked the work. I liked the problem solving and whatever. But it's like, this is going to be your life, man. It's like, and that means something different than just having fun with this thing that you kind of like, you know? So as the hockey player, it's the same thing. It's like, do you want this lifestyle? Like, do you want to grind through this when things get tough? Because it's a roller coaster ride. There's another cliche. It's like, you're going to have the highs, you're going to have the ultra super lows. And when those lows come, do you actually want to work through that problem because you want this lifestyle so bad, or do you not? And for a lot of hockey players, they don't. They say that they do, but when like the chips are down and you actually have to do the hard thing, you don't want to. And it was the same thing I found with when I was going through the engineering thing. I was like, I could go try to pursue this. Like, do I want to move to California? Do I want to do that? Do I want to sit at my desk and just solve people's problems all day long, every day at my desk? Is that what I want to do? And I didn't want to do that. And for the hockey player, it's like, do you want to do that hard thing? Do you want to have to go hit that guy every time, or maybe get in a fight 15 times a year, or whatever the problem is? Do you want to deal with your asshole coach all the time telling you what to do? Because that could easily happen. And you have to be able to answer that question. It's actually an important question, you know? So if you find yourself in that position, moral of my story, if you find yourself in that position where you're slugging it out, that's a good time to ask yourself the question of if you actually want it or not, you know?
Yeah. Well, especially when you're young, it doesn't get easier.
Right.
That's the bottom line. It doesn't get easier. So to piggyback off that, I wanted to just say one thing before I go into what you just said, is we talked about, you know, the coaches are trying to bury me. Here's this one thing I could say is like, so what? And I mean, so what, not to be flippant about it. It's because
flippant, holy shit.
Yeah, flippant means,
where do you pull that from?
Whatever.
It's a good word.
You know, I didn't really think about it, right? Flippant. But it's not to be flippant about it. It's because the reality is your coach probably won't be there as long as you will be if you muck it out. If you look at the history of teams, very few even OHL teams or college is a little bit different. They got a tenure there. You got 4 years and kind of got to live with what you live with typically. But junior teams, a lot of times you could play 4 or 5 years in the OHL and have 4, 5, 6 coaches, or you can have one. Does you know? But there's a good opportunity. There's a good possibility that you outlast the coach. And if you play in the National Hockey League, definitely that's a good chance you outlast the coach. So things could change real quick. So stick-to-itiveness is really important, right? But going to what you were saying about, is that really what you want? I think as we talk about a lot, is people look at, and even the Connor McDavids and the Sidney Crosby and stuff like that, people look and judge that's what an NHL hockey player is, right? Well, that's one type of NHL hockey player. They're the best of the best, and what people see is the goals and all the highs. The lows people see are maybe stuff like they didn't win a playoff round and stuff, a little bit of press, but that's only the facade. That's what people see. People don't actually see, and I can't say I do either, what Sidney Crosby does. I'm very familiar with what people do because I do some with people, but it's hard work. Your hockey is your life. If it's not, unless you're just totally gifted, then you can't make it, because it actually has to be your life. It has to come, because if you're going to make millions of dollars, it's got to be the first thing. Like George St. Pierre says that in fighting. He goes, if I don't put me and my fighting first, then it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, man.
It has to. I have to be the most selfish person for a period of time. And the hockey player has to be that person, which means, like, if you don't like being mobile, you have to do it. You have to do some mobility. If you don't like video, you're going to have to do video every day. You're going to have to lift. You're going to have to do conditioning that you don't want to do. You have to do bag skating. You have to do the meetings, and you're going to have to do the travel. The travel will get to you.
Can't hang out with your girlfriend. Have to go to sleep.
Right.
Yeah. These are the things, man.
Yeah, you can sometimes, but not very often. You have to take care of yourself. So that lifestyle it's hockey, 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 and trust me, it becomes a job. And it's the best job in the world if that's what you want to do. But it actually is a job, and it's getting through the highs and lows. So now, if you take again, if you're one of the better players and you're moving on in hockey and you actually have a chance, hockey changes at every level, right? So is it good when you're the goal scorer? Let's say in minor hockey, youth hockey, you were a goal scorer and you got goals easy. And then you get to junior, it's not quite as easy, but you're still putting up numbers. But if you're going to play pro, if you're going to be that goal scorer, can you handle living the life with the pressure of having to score goals? And look at the people that you're going to have to be trying to replace.
Yeah.
Those guys are really, really hard to find. So if you are good enough to play pro, but you're not good enough to be on a power play to score goals and have like the glamorous type of job where you don't have to do all the necessary, not easy work, but the less grindy stuff. So if you get to that level and you don't take that position, then are you willing to do a third line role? Because that's a different role now. Are you willing to go into corners and in front of net and tip pucks and block shots and penalty kill and do the real hard jobs? Because that's a different type of hockey now. Hockey hurts a lot more now, right? And you've got a different type of skill that you're going to have to be good at. So are you willing to do that? If the answer is yeah, I'm going to be willing to do that. Okay, then just think about it. So you're going to be doing that if you were a goal scorer before. Now you're going to be playing against the best of the best, maybe third line guys if you get put down a level, because you're still a good hockey player, right? So like you take Zach Kassian, for example, he could put pucks in the net and he was a great hockey player. And then gets to the NHL, it's like he gets some points, but he's got a role that's a hard role. It's hard, right? He told me the one time he had a playoff series against Anaheim, he came out and bang, 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 had 3 big, huge hits. And then after the next game, it was a little bit less. So we were on the ice and I said, he was just talking. He goes, yeah, people didn't realize I had a broken finger at first shift, right? So like it hurts, right? So it's a different role. So now, okay, so let's just say you're really tough. Let's say you're a really good, tough grinder guy, or like a Tom Wilson type of player, and you like it. Okay, so in minor hockey, that's guys aren't quite as big, and you're playing against most guys that aren't as big and strong like that. Most guys don't play like that. And you get to junior, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a little tougher, but I still like it. But when you get to the NHL, it's every night. That role is against Tom Wilson, Tyler Geno. You just go down to Zach Kassian and these guys that are the biggest, the strongest, the toughest, the fastest, and they've been doing it for 15 years. It's like, okay, so you still want to do that. And so those are the things that you really got to ask yourself is, do I really want to do that? Because if you don't, then yeah, I'd like to, but or do you want to? There's a big difference between
there's a difference
I
between,
will do it.
Yeah, there's a difference between you get to do it when it's fun, when you get to dominate, or you have to, right? We say that the other way a lot too. Like instead of thinking I have to do this, it's nice to think of it as I get to. That's a nice positive spin on it. But when you get to the pro level, it's not you get to, it's you have to. If you're Austin Matthews and you don't score 40 goals, that's actually a problem for you, right? And now it's not just I get to score a bunch of goals. It's like if you don't score that many goals, now there's actually a consequence. You're not, your next contract, you're not getting it, or you get traded around, or that you get sat, or you get whatever, and you might lose your job.
Yeah,
actually, because you're not scoring.
Is traveling a pain in the ass?
Yeah, it's legit.
If you don't like to move once a year or twice a year, right?
Dude,
if you don't like to travel, well then you're traveling almost on a daily basis, and then you might get traded, you might get sent down to the minors, all these things. That's the life that people don't actually see. And the difference between the NHL and the American League is you take a zero off your paycheck, plus you're not getting the food and the meals.
It's not as glamorous.
Food and meals. The travel isn't as good. It's like you're living in an apartment with 3 buddies, and that might not be the greatest thing. But I mean, there's so many good things about it. But that's the difference. It's like to want to do this. This is why when you're younger and you're going through a little bit of adversity, it's like this is where you test yourself and you go through it, like really go through it and do everything you can to get through it, and you'll find out if you want to do it or not.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I would say that the guys that make it really want to, and the guys that don't, they find the smallest thing to make into a big problem. Like the coach just wants to bury me. Well, I don't think he does. I think he wants to win. And he wants, if you do what he says, he's going to play you.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's really, really hard. So.
Yeah, dude. That's great. That went really well. I'm happy with that. Anything else? Good?
No, I'm good.
Okay, sweet. See ya.